Well, good evening, everybody. It's a pleasure to be back. George Morgan here at your service. It's PSGL, it's Wednesday night, it's Spain tonight as well. Lots on the table, lots of battling. The title contest is still alive and kicking. And Jack, it's only taken us 10 rounds. We're on the 11th. It's all to play for.
Boromant goes on the inside and takes the lead on the final lap of the race. Now it's side by side between Boromant and Warner, but Boromant's got the inside.
Literally a guest star here in this phenomenal race. Cameron Dowd looking to take P2 in his very first PSGL F1 PC race. Incredible to say the least. You see that Putin's the lead. 1.5 seconds. DRS is the name.
Good evening everyone and welcome back to the PSGL YouTube channel for round number 3 of this PC F2 season. At the moment we are in an incredibly close title bout for the first 2 rounds of this season, and I'm really excited to see how they continue along heading in towards Hungary. A very tricky circuit. It's been dubbed Monaco without the walls. We'll see how the drivers cope this evening. My name is Dan Field and once again I'm being joined by Nathan Richards. Nathan, how you doing?
Doing good. Great to be back, and yet again for the 3rd round of the season. And as we haven't mentioned yet, but the title's really close. So I'm very excited to see yet again who can get themselves possibly with a victory on the podium. We got lots of Josie Flock making a return here. We got Mirko Soriano not here again. So last season's runner-up not getting any points in the first 3 races. So yeah, I'm very excited to see what can go on, and especially at a track like Hungary, which Dan, you said earlier is one of your favourite circuits.
Yeah, I love this track. I think it's great fun to drive. It's not the easiest track to race on. I mean, there's only really one overtaking opportunity. I guess you could say 2. Of course, turn number 1, heavy braking zone around about the 75 meter mark from the apex, and then you've got that double DRS straight heading in towards turn number 2. It could make for some good overtaking and some decent battles, potentially all the way up until turn number 4. We'll see come race time. Of course, qualifying is about to get underway. Nathan, you were saying you were hoping for some rain. I mean, that would definitely throw some spice into the mixture here.
Definitely would. I don't think the rain in the race would be that interesting because it's already a difficult track to overtake on, and rain would make it even worse. But I think in qualifying, with a track that's already great in qualifying, you know, wet weather always makes qualifying better. So if we had a wet qualifying, it'd be good. I've said I hope, so that means we probably will not now, because we'll get that curse. But we'll see what happens in the next 5 seconds when we load into the session.
Yeah, we are loading into qualifying right now. We'll just have a quick look at the championship standings. Of course, the aforementioned incredibly close title fight. You can see Joost Noordijk leading the way at the minute after 2 very strong finishes in the first 2 rounds of this season. The 2 Red Bulls of Max Wiesel and Louis Welch both winning thus far this season. They sit 2nd and 3rd joint on 16 points, and then Tycho Hardy, who's had a really impressive start to season 35, sits 4th on 15 points. Then there's 3 drivers sat on 12 points at the minute. 5th is Fion McKee, 6th Yannick Schmidt, and then Keen Gundorp in 7th. Tamas Gao, Jan Halliday, and Daniel Shelson rounding out that top 10. And then on the fringes of being inside that top 10, we've got Sergio Sobrino in 11th on 4 points, then Jerry Van Boosel and Shimon Lekomsky joint 12th and 13th on 3 points, and then Daniel Coy and Declan Barrett are the last 2 drivers to score points this season. Mirko Soriano, Rishan Jacobs, Liam Stevens, Andrei Tarabukin, and Drake Dempsey, our season 33 champion, all yet to get off the mark. But Nathan, as we head into this qualifying session, it is an incredibly close title fight here.
It is, and I'm very excited to see what Max Wiesel can do, because obviously he took the victory in round 1, didn't have such a successful round 2 at Qatar, so maybe he can get himself back on it here tonight at Hungary. We know last night in E-Series he took pole, which was equaling the time of Istvan Pukki, but because Max set it first, he did get that pole position. So if he can keep that form here today, I can definitely see him trying to fight for a podium or even for a victory. Obviously, this season we've had only 2 winners. It's the first 2 rounds, which is Max, and in the last race we had Louis Welch win, and for podiums, we've had 6 different podium sitters in 2 races: Max, Louis, Theon, Joost, Tycho and Kian. So very close at the top, and maybe today we can get our first double winner, podium sitter or pole position sitter.
Absolutely, and now we've got ourselves over to qualifying. We are trackside here, looking at Max Wiesel right on board with the Red Bull driver. You can see it's very overcast conditions. I wonder if the reason that so many drivers have come out the pit lane straight away to do their laps is maybe a chance of rain later on in the session. They want to get the best conditions possible at the beginning of this session. We'll have to wait and see how it all works out. Of course, only 19 drivers on the grid here this evening. I believe we're missing one of the Alfa Romeos, so very sad to see that that is the case, but still 19 drivers. They can put up a good race for us this evening, and first out on the circuit, I believe, is Theon McKee. Nathan already just coming up to F2 from F3, I believe, last season. Theon McKee has already made waves here in F2, getting a podium on his very first race. Of course, not racing last time out in Qatar. I think he's got to be a dark horse for this one today.
He's definitely got to be, and I'm hoping he can do well. It says on the screen he's in TS, but recently he did transfer over to TF10. So yeah, he's obviously just forgot to change his name, but he's heading down towards his first car. Obviously took, I believe it was P4 in qualifying in the Ferrari, and then took P2 in the race. Did get dropped down to P5, but he got that penalty removed, so he did get promoted back up to P2. But he heads down now in towards turns 2 and 3, doing a very good job so far. Obviously, this is quite a difficult sector on the circuit. I think one of the most difficult sectors in the whole of Formula 1. Canada taking that very nicely. Now he comes up in towards turn 4 at the left-hander. We'll see what his first sector is, a 27.084 to kick us off in this session. He heads to the right-hander at turn 5, just swing it round very long. I just want to be careful not to ride the curb too wide on the exit, otherwise you will get yourself a invalidation. Through the chicane at turns 8 and 9, very nice so far for Theo as he comes through to the end of that second sector, and this is now really like, as I believe Joshua Birch used to call it, the Mickey Mouse section here at the end of this second sector. Just chuck it to the right, try not to run wide. A lot of people run wide at turn 11. It's a 53.579 for the first and second sector split for Theo McKee. He heads down now in towards turn 12, and just to note, Drake Dempsey has retired because he has a qualifying ban, which he was meant to serve last round, but unfortunately didn't make it. So, final call to go, turn 14 for Theo McKee. What can he set for the first time in this session? Up to the line, what will it be for Theon? It will be a 1 minute 14.996.
Very close to that 1 minute 15, and then Max Wiesel going to blow that time out of the water. A 1 minute 14.519 for the German driver there. Bradley Holdham in the other Ferrari is about to come across the line, just about beats out his teammate by around about a tenth of a second. And Legend Rosenberg, slowest time thus far. We'll see one of the Aston Martins. It's not Jan Halliday, I believe. That was was Drake Dempsey's car coming into the pit lane. Apologies there. We'll see Joseph Loka, I believe. We'll watch him come through the second sector. His teammate Liam Stevens for the evening comes across the line with a 1 minute 14.962, ever so slightly quicker than Jerry Van Boostel, set a 1 minute 14.969. So very fine margins here in F2. Tamas Gal and Joost Noordijk and Louis Welch and Tycho Hardy, 5 of the quickest drivers, I'd say, in that top 5 at the minute. We'll see how they cope for the rest of the session, but making his return to PSGL PC F2, the man who dominated every single race that he participated in last season and who should have been in the title fight really if he turned up to every event. It is Joseph Loke coming up towards the line. Will we see a new provisional pole time? Indeed we will, blowing out Max Wiesel's time with a 1 minute 14.346.
Now, to me, it seems like the track has just evolved heavily, because that is one of the biggest gaps I think we've seen for a long time between the top 5 after just one lap. 3.5 tenths of a second pretty much separating between Joseph down to Joost Noordijk. It's about 1.7 tenths to Max Wiesel, who's also got a 10.5 to Tamas Gal. So at the moment, Joseph and Lenny, who are sitting in the top 2, are looking very strong, with Max as well. But some of the others you consider like Sophia McGee, who to me put in a great lap, but now he's down in P13 and he's 6.5 tenths off what is the quickest time. So a lot of grid spread, it seems, so far, Dan, which is something we don't often see here in F2, is it?
I wonder if that is due to the fact that we ride on board with Yannick Schmidt. You can see little hints of blue skies peeking through the clouds. So I wonder if the clouds beginning to part, bringing up the track temperature ever so slightly, and then it makes the tires more grippy, more heat in the tires. So possibly that is the reason why we are seeing such big gaps at the minute. And if this cloud coverage sort of stays the same, we should see times relatively close up together. We'll have to wait and see, of course. I mean, Yannick Schmidt is on an outlap at the moment, with Jan Halliday also coming out onto the circuit. So I think this is going to be a good litmus test to see whether or not the track conditions are beginning to ramp up, as Yannick Schmidt is going to head through now the final corner to begin his lap. A driver that I personally have been very impressed with so far this season. I believe he was on the podium in Japan at round number 1. My memory is already a bit hazy. That is the signs of me getting a bit old, I think, Nathan, at this point. But in towards turn of 1, we'll see how this lap goes for Yannick Schmidt.
Yeah, he's heading down towards turn 2. Yannick Schmidt's last night in the E-Series went from 19th to 4th. So he's a driver when it comes to race pace. He's very, very strong. He did start last because of his qualifying ban, but still, his race pace is a little bit like Dylan Morris, always really pristine and always has some really top-notch pace. So he heads through in towards turn 4, 26.984 in that first sector there for Yannick Schmidt as he heads down in towards turn 5, the long right-hander, tries to run wide but not too wide, so you don't get an invalidation. We know a circuit like this, to be fair, normally causes quite a few invalidations. However, 15 drivers have set a time, so that is quite surprising to me. I thought we would have seen a few more people make mistakes and run a bit wide in some of the corners. We know turn 11, where Yannick Schmidt is coming up to shortly, he's normally a place that victimises many drivers. So he comes through there and runs a little bit wide, but not wide enough to get himself an invalidation. 53.373 in that first and second split for Yannick Schmidt. He comes down now in towards turns 12 and now in towards turn 13. Normally want to run a little bit wide here. You don't want to touch that that grey curb, as that can send the car straight around. Same here at turn 14. Try not to touch that grey curb up towards the line. What will it be for Yannick Schmidt? Is it the top 5? Be just outside the top 5. P6 with a 1 minute 14.714. Jan Halliday is also on that time. He's just heading down in towards turn 2. So we'll see what time he can do for the Aston Martin. His teammate, obviously we know Drake is going to be starting at the back because of a penalty. So not the most best start, I think, so far for Aston Martin.
Yeah, it's a good time there from Yannick Schmidt. Not enough to get himself into that top 5, I think. Joseph Loke, Lenny Pepinter, Max Wiesel and Tamas Gal, Joost Noordijk as well. Incredibly talented drivers, and I think all of them can have a great showing this evening. I think it's key to note that the 2 race clutch drivers of Lenny Pepinter and Tamas Gal are within that top 5 together. Of course, there's going to be advantages and drawbacks to that. They can work together to make up positions, but come pit stop time, one of them's going to have to sacrifice a little bit of speed due to the fact that the double stack really is not possible on this game, as unfortunately we've seen an invalidation from Jan Halliday there. Luckily though, we've got Max Wiesel on a run heading down in towards this second sector. And Nathan, I think one of the reasons I love this track so much is because whenever I race with my friends who don't use strict corner cutting rules, I completely extend that turn 11 corner there. So maybe that's why I'm so fond of this track. But here in PSGL, these drivers, they really do have to keep their wits about them. It's very easy through some of these high-speed corners to run ever so slightly wide and invalidate your time. But Max Wiesel coping really well on this lap, up by a 10th in the first and second sector. We'll see what the improvement is at the line. He goes just 3,000 clear of Joseph Local, 1 minute 14.343. A great time there from Max Wiesel.
Yeah, very good time indeed. Joe Sordike just popped himself into P4 with a .511. Louis Welch is invalidated. That's Tycho Hardy popping himself back into the top 5. A driver that we didn't see much in the points last season. He's done a great job, especially at the start of qualifying. Phil McKee's let off his lap already down at turn 2, so he's obviously made a bit of a mistake, or he just completed his lap. Oh no, he did complete the lap. He's put himself just ahead of his teammate on an 8.33. We've got Sergio Sobrino popping himself up into 6th position. I'm just going to go on board with Jerry Van. No, he's heading back into the pit, so we won't go on board with Jerry Van. But what about Reyes Imtiaz? He's heading down in towards that first corner. I believe he's on a lap time. Yes, he is. He's got full battery as he exits that first corner. As he heads down now in towards turns 2 and 3. Very nice so far. Obviously, as we said before, don't want to touch those grey curbs because that will send the car straight round. You come through turn 3 at the right, then back up towards turn 4, where you just throw the car to the left and just try and hope for the best that you don't end up losing the rear through the corner. Up by 20 thousandths there for Reyes in that first sector. Very nice indeed for him as he comes through down in towards the chicane now, I believe at turns 7 and turns 8. Doing a good job so far as he heads through there. Now in towards this middle, well, I'd say this is probably the middle part of the track. A very difficult place, and it's a place, if you've got the right setup, very high downforce, you can get a lot of time on drivers who've got very low downforce setups through that middle sector. 53.327, up by just over a tenth of a second as he heads down in towards turn 12. Could put him around that P10 spot. Hopefully in this final sector down at turns 13 and 14 he can gain a little bit more time. through turn 13, now in towards the final corner at turn 14. We'll see what time Ray's Imtiaz can do as he heads up towards the line. What will it be for the Williams driver? Is it quicker than his teammate? Yes, it is, with a .656. It seems, Dan, a lot of people gaining over a tenth or two in that final corner.
Yeah, nice stuff from Race MTS to get himself in that top 10. He's yet to score a point, I believe, so far this season. So it's good to see him on the board at the moment in qualifying. Of course, no points for qualifying, but around a track like Hungary, grid position is everything, where it's so difficult to overtake through here. One man on a great lap at the minute is Lenny Pepinter, just purple in that second sector. He's actually down in sector 1, has been able to find a bit more time in sector 2, as now Tamas Gal goes to the top of the order with a 1 minute 14.340, and Jim Komsky blowing everyone's time out of the water. As here comes Lenny Pepinter up towards the line. It's good enough for P2 at the minute, but Shimon Lakomsky, we know he's quick in qualifying. That is a fantastic lap, just 300s clear of Lenny Pepinter, 700s clear of Tamas Gal, Max Vital and Joseph Loke. So Nathan, I think my hypothesis was correct, as we see the session go on. The times are getting closer and closer, and it's absolutely wonderful to see.
They are, yeah. What I said at the start, it seemed to change heavily. It was 3.5 tenths separating the top 5 at the start of the session. Now it's, I think, about 68 thousandths separated the top 5, with Tamas to Joseph being separated by just 6 thousandths of a second. So 3 drivers separated by not even a tenth of a second. Great job from those guys. And I'm on board with Yannick Schmidt currently heading through in towards chicane at turn 6 and 7. We'll see what he can do. Bit squiggly on the exit as chicane. That could lose him a bit of time. Currently down in P11 on a 1 minute 14.714. A driver I expect to be around that top 5, so hopefully he can find an improvement in his second and third sector. Does he improve in that second sector? Yes, he does, by over a tenth and a half, so this is good enough at the moment to put him around that P6, P7 area. So we'll come through out of turn 12, then in towards turn 13. Sometimes you can take a bit more of a late apex through here, not go right to the inside. You can prepare yourself for a good exit in towards turn 14. And then here, you can run wide on the exit of this corner to get yourself right quick up towards line. What time will it be for Yannick Schmidt? We'll put in P8 with a .578. So very nice that time for him. Daniel Kelton heads back into the pits. Again, Halliday's just coming through. I think he's finished his lap. He's currently P11 with a 14.643. Louis Welch has had a bit of a slide. He's had a big slide. He's spun it down at around turns 9 and 10. He's lost the car completely. He's up by a tenth in the first sector. So could have been good enough to put him around that P10 area, but unfortunately in that middle sector he's lit his tyres up and lost a lot of time and spun around at turn 10. So big shame for Louis, who we saw win last time out at Qatar. So very different for him here in Hungary.
Disappointing run so far in qualifying for Louis Welch. Meyer down in 15th at the minute on a 14.796, a whole 5 tenths. That's half a second off the back of currently the provisional pole time set by Shimon Lakomsky. We've seen multiple drivers attempt a lap. Joseph Loke was on a run, but he did not find any improvement on that lap. So Shimon Lakomsky, yeah, seemingly in a world of his own, the only driver on a 1 minute 14.2 at the moment. However, Joost Noordijk's found a decent improvement in the first sector. We'll see what he can do through sector 1 and 2 combined. It's an improvement of about a tenth, just under a tenth and a half. So it's decent so far for Joost Noordijk. However, it's not really going to be enough to challenge the likes of Lakomsky, Pepinter or Gal. Possibly he can find himself around about where Max Wiesel and Joseph Loke is, but we'll see what he can do through the final corner now off the exit. What is it going to be for Joost Noordijk as he comes to the line? He finds almost a tenth and a quarter improvement. It was 1.2 tenths of a second of improvement for him there, but unfortunately wasn't enough to get him up any positions. He'll remain P6 for the time being. Fionn McKee is on a lap, but he'll come back into the pit lane at the end of that one. I believe most other drivers are as well. Legend Rosenberg will come into the box, and then that leaves Joost Noordijk, the lone driver, out on circuit with 3.5 minutes left to go in this session. Currently, Shimon Lakomsky remains untouchable at the top of the order with a 1 minute 14.277. However, the two Alpines of Lenny Pepinter and Tamas Gal using their race clutch teamwork to get themselves in a decent 2-3 at the minute. We'll see, Nathan, the next 3 minutes how this session pans out.
Yeah, I'm very excited to see how the final runs come down. I think anyone in that maybe top 6 area can all try and fight for that pole position, because they're all I think it's just over a tenth between first down to 6th, so very close between those. Daniel Kjelsen will be the first to head out onto the circuit. along with a couple others. And also, I was watching Theo McKee's lap. He went down into turn 4, hit that inside curb a little bit too much, and it sent the car completely around. Luckily, he could catch it before the car spun, but he did have a massive slow coming out there, so he went completely wide, and that was his lap, done and dusted before the end of that first set. So big shame for Theon, and what we saw in Japan, we're not seeing this at all, a bit like Lou Welch at all here, and he's really struggling for pace, about 6 tenths off the back of Szymon Lekomski. I think it's about 5.5 tenths off the back of Szymon Lekomski, so quite surprising to see him quite that far down. But it seems there's quite a few drivers that aren't really within that 1 or 2 tenths, whereas normally we see everyone within 2 or 3 tenths, don't we, Dan? So a lot of people seeming to struggle, but that could also be down to setups.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, qualifying is about to come to its climax. We've got most drivers out on circuit at the minute, bar the 2 Haas cars, and of course Drake Dempsey serving his qualifying ban for what happened between himself and Sergio Sobrino, I believe it was, in Japan, round number 1, which brought out that last safety car. As now we've got, speaking of Sergio Sobrino, we've got our first grid penalty of the day, so we will have a lobby restart. And this has been going on, Nathan, for what feels like months at this point in league racing. How hard can it really be to for them to fix this issue? And it's so silly why it's not been patched yet, but yeah, nevertheless, we'll continue on. We're going to have our lobby restart. We'll see what Joseph Lowe can do on a lap. He will be the first driver to set us on the final runs, and Nathan, I've got to say, not really seen the dominance that we saw last season whenever Joseph Lowe stepped in a car. Most of the time it was a Mercedes. We've not seen that same level of speed this evening.
Yeah, definitely not. Last season when we saw Joseph Lowe, we'd be comparing him to a little bit like Max Verstappen here. We're not really able to compare him that much. He's currently sitting P5. Yes, he's only 70 thousandths off. But in esports, you know, 70 thousandths of a second can be quite a lot. We've seen qualifyings come closer than that between 5th, 6th and 7th position. So we'll see if Joseph can get himself an improvement of a 10th of a second, as we know that is quite a lot to improve by. And considering how many people are far off that pace, it's going to be definitely going to be hard for him to try and find all of that pace. So he's coming through towards turn 4. He's up by half a tenth already in that first set. That's very nice indeed through that first set for Joseph Lowe. He'll head up through turns 5, down towards turn 6 and 7 at the chicane, and we'll see what his final run will be. Just using those curbs for rotation, having a bit of slide, that could definitely lose him time, as he was very squiggly on the exit of turn 7. He comes through this Mickey Mouse section in the middle sector now, and we'll see him as he comes through turn 11. That's where we'll see what improvements or what loss he's got in that first and second combined. He's down by 13 thousandths, and this might not be the lap for pole for Joseph Lowe.
He's definitely lost that in the chicane. We saw the slide off the second part of that corner, so very unfortunate for Joseph Lowe. He was on for a very good time indeed. He's still on for a decent lap if he finds just 100th of an improvement in this final sector. As he comes across the line now, we'll see what it is for Joseph Lowe. He's been able to go purple in that final sector, but it's only good enough for P3 at the minute. As now we've got Daniel Shelton next up towards the line. Yannick Schmidt has just gone ahead of him. Daniel Shelton set a very nice time, 1 minute 14.457. We'll see what his teammate for this evening can do. Szymon Lekomski can do. Currently on provisional pole at the minute. Will he extend his advantage at the top of the order? Indeed he will, finding 46 thousandths on that previous best lap. A 1 minute 14.231 is the time to beat. Tamas Gal gets close, but not close enough to take provisional pole position. Lenny Pepinter is also on a lap at the moment, coming through the final couple of corners. We're still waiting on Max Wiesel as well and Joost Noordijk to set their times. Can they challenge Szymon Lekomski? Lenny Pepinter find an improvement, but it's not enough to go up any positions. Unfortunately, Max Wiesel's made a mistake on his lap and will not be improving. Legend Rosenberg comes to the line with a 14.8, only good enough for P17. Here comes Joost Noordijk up towards the line. It's a disappointing P7 for him in this session. Then Max Wiesel will come into the pit lane. No one is going to be able to challenge Szymon Lekomski, who once again proves that he has got incredible qualifying pace here. He's going to go just, 14 thousandths ahead of Tamas Gal, who's a further 400ths ahead of his teammate for the evening, Lenny Pepinter. So Nathan, once again, incredibly close qualifying here.
It is, and yet again we've got a completely different starting grid. The top 7, none of those are in the top 4 in this race. Szymon, Tamas, Lenny and Joseph aren't in the 8th or below in the championship. So yet again we've got another chance to have the championship be really, really close here in Hungary. But I think Max Wiesel, not ideal to be in P5, but it's still a decent position. He's currently only 1 point back in the championship from Joost Noordijk, who's going to start a couple of positions lower. Then we've got Louis Welch. He's starting quite far down the order, unfortunately for him. But we'll look at the final classification for qualifying. It is Shimon Lukomsky, who takes, in my eyes, a surprising pole position ahead of Tamas Gal and Tamash's teammate, Lenny Papinter, in third. Then we've got Josie Flugman returning fourth, Max Wiesel in fifth, Jan Halliday sixth, Jo Stordak in seventh, Daniel Kjelsen P8, Bradley Holdham ninth, and Tycho Hardy rounded out the top 10. Then we have Louis Welch in 11th, Fraser Imtiaz in 12th, Phil McKee 13th, Liam Stevens 14th, Yannick Schmidt in 15th, Sergio Serino 16th, Legend Rosenberg 17th, Jerry Van Bussel in 18th, and Drake Dempsey 19th with a qualifying ban, hence why he has no lap set. But surprisingly, well, it is big. Well, I suppose it is surprising in the way that we got Legend and Jerry quite far off the pace. 2/10 back from 16th for Sergio, and it's about 3.5 tenths back from Sergio for Jerry Van Bussel. They've definitely got to find something down in that S7R camp.
Yeah, I mean, Legend Rosenberg really has struggled so far this season. Jerry Van Bussel has found himself in a point-scoring position at one point. I believe it was round number 1 where he scored points. Don't quote me on that. He is on the board at some point. He's in the lower end of the field. I've got to say, though, Nathan, one of the surprises in my eyes, Yannick Schmidt down in P15. It's not good enough qualifying from him. The Williams, what is he? A Williams test driver or something? He's in the Williams camp somewhere.
Yannick, yes.
Yeah, Yannick.
Development
driver. See, that's the word I was looking for. He's a development driver at Williams, and I gotta say, he really should be disappointed in that qualifying race. Imtiaz's teammate, who struggled so far this season, has been able to out-qualify him. One other name that I'm sad to see outside the top 10, Louis Welch, winner from last week, only in P11, and he was just a few thousandths off the back of Tycho Hardy. It was 6 thousandths of a second, the gap between 10th and 11th, so very disappointing to see that Louis Welch has not got into the top 10, and around a circuit where qualifying is so important, those names that I've mentioned, Louis Welch, Yannick Schmidt, who I think should be higher, they're going to have a tough race here.
They are, and I think for all the people that know Louis Welch, well, he's, the pad goat. He's, I think, the only one in this grid to be using a controller. So, to be fair, to be only 2.5 cents off of pole from people who use a wheel, which are, there's a lot more for feedback, a lot more feedback in general on the controls. I think he's doing a very good job with that controller. I would not be anywhere near that. I'm about 3 seconds off esports anyway. With the controller, add another 3 seconds onto that. So, to be within this mix with drivers who got £1,000, £2,000 setups on a £30 controller, he's in quite a decent position. And being P11, I wouldn't be moaning at that. Maybe he will because he won, but if we get rid of the victory in Qatar, I'd still say it's a decent qualifying.
I wonder if he's upgraded to a PS5 controller at some point.
Maybe.
I think that'd be funny for him to instead of going out and buying a wheel. I think he's got a wheel actually.
Yeah, he did.
Or something like that. I mean, he used to race on wheel at some points, and he was really good actually on the wheel. So don't doubt Louis Welch's pace when he's not on a controller. Maybe some people will call him a pad merchant or something. I don't know. But
well, when he raced on the wheel, he was in F6.
I didn't know that.
He originally started the season in F2.
I remember. I remember earlier days, probably when he was still on PlayStation. When he used the wheel, I didn't know he actually did it recently. But yeah, Louis Welch, he's still the GOAT in everyone's eyes. But in terms of being a pad driver, but yeah, we're just waiting for the grid to get sorted, then we can head into the race. Hello to everyone in the stream as well. We've not actually really had a chat to everyone. We see Joe and Vista saying F7R on top. Kailani May says hi Danfield. Where's the hello for Nathan? What's that about, Lani? Come on, there's
disgraceful.
Otaku Logan says ha 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 ha. Ronaldinho Soccer, no clue what that means. Big C saying good evening Daniel and Nathan. Hello boss. As FedEx F1 says, does anyone have any grid pens? He asked that twice. Apologies, we weren't really looking at the chat throughout the qualifying session, but yes, well, I suppose no, there's no grid penalties. Drake Dempsey did have a qualifying ban coming to this one, which is why we saw him retired without a lap. But in terms of grid penalties, there's been none aside from the ones that they give in game. But yeah, everything should be as it is in qualifying, with Drake Dempsey starting at the back of the field. Nathan, I think we have time for an advert before we head into the race, so we'll join you back here in the commentary box after a quick word from our sponsors at GT Omega. to the commentary box. We're yet to head into the lobby, so you can join us back here in the commentator's corner. Nathan, before we head into the race, let's remind ourselves of the championship standings heading into this one. Joost Noordijk is leading the way at the minute after two very strong finishes so to start off the season. Max Wiesel and Louis Welch, the two Red Bulls, winning round number 1 and 2. It was Japan won by Max, and then last week's Qatar Grand Prix won by Louis Welch. They sit second and third joint on 16 points apiece. Then Taika Hardy is a further point back from them on fifth. I'm losing my words. In fourth on 15 points. Then Theo McKee, Yannick Schmidt, Kian Gondorp, all on 12 points in 5th, 6th and 7th. Then Tamas Gowie, Jan Halliday and Daniel Shelson rounding out that top 10. Sergio Sobrino not yet to get on the left side of the graphic here. He'll sit in 11th, just on the cusp of the top 10 on 4 points. Then Jerry Van Boekel and Shimon Lakomsky sit joint to 12th and 13th on 3 points apiece. Then Daniel Corey and Declan Barrett are the last drivers to get on the board. Marco Soriano, Rishan Jacobs, Liam Stevens, Andrew Tarabukin and Drake Dempsey all yet to get off the mark. And Nathan, we're seeing how close this title fight is, but as you mentioned, no one in that top 7 is starting in the top 4 in this Grand Prix. So around a circuit where qualifying is so important and it's so difficult to overtake, surely the championship standings are going to look a lot different, a lot different to what we see now.
Yeah, and it could be even more interesting going into round 4. It'd be nice to see 9 drivers all within, 6 or 7 points. Last season, it was a different story. Jack West and Mirko Soriano checked out after round 3 pretty much until Josie Float came back and thought, no, we're not going to allow you to run away that much. And then Jack West had issues at the end of the season. That caused a bit of controversy in the final race where Sergio Sobrino was the one who caused Mirko probably to not win the championship. So yeah, it was quite an entertaining Abu Dhabi Grand Prix to say the least, because I believe Jack West had an issue in China with his pedals, so he was right at the back of the grid. And then he also had an issue in Abu Dhabi. I think it was the same one, or he didn't race one of the two. So he didn't score points in the last 2 rounds and still won the championship. And I think it was by quite a amount of points, only because Mirko got taken out and he ended up scoring none. So it was an eventful one at the end of the season, and well, with all these drivers here in the championships only being so close, it would be nice to see all of those involved in the fight at the end of the season. But obviously, we're just looking. We're not bothered looking back at the standings, but we'll just talk about the constructors quickly. Red Bull on 32 points. They're doing a very good job, obviously, with Max and Louis, and then further back, there's also very close battles. I think there's about 3 teams who are all on 8 points each. So the constructor side doesn't get focused on too much, but that is still, quite a close battle. And unfortunately, Mercedes with Rishon and Liam still yet to score points.
I was thinking about that championship season, or that championship finale last season between Jack and Mirko, and it kind of draws parallels to 2021, where I think obviously the circumstances were a lot different, but I think over the course of the season, Jack West definitely did deserve that title, but on that night, Mirko Soriano totally deserved to win, but then was sort of robbed of it in the end by being taken out on the final lap. It was so unfortunate to see. I was heartbroken, for him. So Jack did win the title, and over the course of the season, definitely deserved it. But on that night, Mirko Soriano did deserve to win, and with that, he'd have had the title firmly in his hands. I remember Jack though pulling that little stunt where he blocked Mirko for a decent amount of time. And if he didn't do that, he'd be a few seconds up the road from Sergio Sobrino. So I think maybe Jack played that purposely. But I think enough about last season. You're completely right. It's so much different to what we had last year. It's an incredibly close title fight between multiple different drivers, and I think today is where we can see that get even more crazy.
Yeah, I think another big change this season is the grid. The grid is like, there's quite a few drivers we saw last season, but in general, there's a lot of new names that are either being promoted from reserve to full-time or are just coming in. I think we've got lots of Kian, Jerry, let's just look through. There's a couple others as well, I believe, who've moved over from PlayStation to PC, which is very nice to see. It's always nice to see the PlayStation drivers move over, because sometimes over on the PlayStation side, they don't kind of get the love and the love and joy they deserve. They come over here and they get to really show their skills on PC. And I believe out of all of the ones that have come over, Kian is one that has probably stood out to me. You know, he comes straight to PC. I believe the first time I commentated on him on the PC was over at WR, and I believe he scored third in his first race. Which, to go from a platform to another and get third or fourth in your debut race, that is, it's something you should be very happy with. And also, he scored a podium. He's got pole this season here in PSGL. I think he's a bright talent. He's having a very good start to his PC adventure.
Yeah, normally it does take a bit of adjusting to go from the PlayStation or Xbox to PC, because the games actually are a bit different in terms of how you drive it, and maybe it's something you wouldn't notice if you were a bit of a slower driver like myself, but I completely felt the exact same when I went from PlayStation to PC. But when you're at this level here in PC F2, those slight differences in handling or grip between the platforms really can throw you off your game, because it's just entirely muscle memory at this point for these guys. And when something ever so slightly minute changes, that it really can slow them down. So I really do admire the PlayStation drivers that are able to compete at this level here on PC, and I think Kian Gondop, you're absolutely right, has been the outstander here this season so far. Still, the likes of Race Imtiaz and Jerry Van Boosel, they've had their moments so far this season, and I definitely think in the coming weeks we should see all of the PlayStation and Xbox guys who have come up from those platforms really begin to catch up with some of the more experienced PC drivers.
Yeah, definitely. And, the session's going to start soon, so we do get underway shortly. And it is a bit of a longer race in terms of laps. We've got 35 laps. Normally have about 26, 27. But here, because it's a shorter circuit, we have 35. And maybe, Dan, at the end of the season, the final round, we should be able to jump into the cars and have a race.
Maybe. It'd be fun. We could do like you know what? That'd actually be a really fun little event that PSGL could do. Like a commentator showdown or something. Ooh. All of the commentators from all the platforms hop into a lobby and then have a race, determine who the best one is. Connor, if you're still watching, write that one down, because maybe I've struck gold with that. And you can see 20 commentators spinning around a circuit, and it could be a bit of chaos just to end the season off. And we're getting shouted at, Nathan, to start the race once again. It appears to be our fault that is the case, but we have just loaded into the session, so we'll get ready for this race to start in just a few moments time once everyone sets up their car once again and sets their strategy. And you were saying that around this circuit, I think you saw in F3 it was the soft tires, if I'm not mistaken, that most drivers started on.
Yeah, and we also had the person, I think he was in fourth, had a drive-through penalty on the first lap, so it was an eventful start. And let's hope we don't have any drive-throughs here, because I don't think we saw any of that last season at all, did we, Dan? Maybe we saw it once, but I don't remember it.
I don't remember anyone getting a drive-through penalty for jumping this. I mean, the only way you can get a drive-through penalty really on this game is jumping the start, or I think speeding under VSC. And we've not seen that, or speeding on the safety car as well, actually. But yeah, I don't think we saw that at all last season. Maybe today is where it all changes, as now, Nathan, we're in that awkward period where I just have to keep on talking and hyping up this race. I can see Louis' tyres in the garage has changed from soft to medium. We'll see what they're all on now, as it is 5 red lights here in Hungary. And we are away. It looks to be a good start from Szymon Lakomski, heading down in towards turn number 1. Already Max Wiesel ahead of Joseph Lokas now. Szymon Lakomski, what a start from him, clearing Tamas Gown to the first corner. Max Wiesel further back behind is looking up the inside of one of the Alpines of Lenny Pepinter as he made the move stick off the exit of the corner. Indeed he has. It's been a great start for Grandpa himself now in towards turn number 2. Lenny Pepinter still holding it down the inside, and they're going to run wheel to wheel once again in towards this first sector, banging tyres off the exit already on lap number 1 of 35, as I believe Lenny Pepinter is just going to be able to clear Max Wiesel heading in towards now sector 2, but it has been a dream getaway for Szymon Lakomski.
Indeed, and Joseph Cloak's lost positions because he's on the medium tyres, everyone else on the soft tyres, as that is also Jan Halliday getting nearly overtaken by Daniel Kjelsen. Jan went up the inside at turn 4 and Joseph Cloak, but just couldn't hook it around the outside at turn 5. So surely these guys on the softs behind, so Jan, Daniel, Bradley, etc., want to get ahead of Joseph as quick as possible, as these mediums will be slower on that opening lap. And also Max Wiesel getting his elbows out along with Lenny Pepinter on that opening lap. A lot of people wanting to make those moves because we know that sometimes it is difficult to overtake around these circuits, so getting their moves on that opening 2 laps before DRS is very, very crucial. So we'll head back down towards turn 1 again. It is Lakomski leading opening up ahead of Tamashka, Lenny Pepinta. We've got Max Wiesling fourth and Joost Noordijk in the top 5. Pretty much the exact same as it was before, but instead Joseph Loker's dropped from 4th down to P6. In towards turn 1, Yannick Schmidt getting himself there ahead of Louis Welch. Louis on the hards, as that is one of the only 4 to start on the hard tires, and that's also Sergio Sobrino up the inside at turn 1. That's 3 wide, heading down in towards turns 2 and 3. Who will be ahead? Sergio Sobrino's going to go round the outside. Yannick Schmidt up the inside. Yannick pushes Sergio a little bit deep into corner. Louis Welch looking to get a move as they head through turn 3. Louis Welch gets himself, and they crash in towards turn 3. Sobrino collides with Louis Welch, and that is a virtual safety car on lap 2 of 35. Very chaotic, and also Drake Dempsey making a good start to get himself up to P16.
Yeah, Sergio Sobrino left out to dry by Yannick Schmidt, where it's just completely grass through there, no grip whatsoever for Sergio Sobrino, and that will definitely be one for the stewards. Now Sergio left without a front wing at the beginning of the second lap. The VSC has been deployed. The race has effectively been neutralized at this point. Szymon Lekonski can take a minute to breathe from the pressure of both Alpines in behind, but that is certainly one the stewards are going to be looking at, and it's already, it's only lap number 2, so I think tonight could be a bit of a dirty one. We've seen round number 1 and 2 be incredibly clean thus far, and I'm keeping my fingers crossed that doesn't get broken here this evening in Hungary, but we should see the green flag out very soon. Sergio Sobrino will have to pit. He's going to have no pace whatsoever. Yannick Schmidt maybe with blood on his hands there. We'll see what happens in towards turn number 1 though. The DRS has now been enabled on lap number 3. 2 DRS zones around this circuit. We'll see how the drivers utilise it. As further back we've got Bradley Holdham and Daniel Shelson doing battle in towards turn number 1. It's the Ferrari around the outside of the McLaren. We'll see what happens, and now Bradley Holdham will have once again the inside in towards the corner, but no, they'll stay the way that they are, as now both F7R drivers of Tycho Hardy and Race Imtiaz Nathan doing battle.
Yeah, a lot of drivers getting their hours out on these opening few laps. Bradley Holdham still trying to get himself back ahead of Yeltsin. The inside of turn 5 had to back out there. Went for a bit of a dummy move up the inside there and just couldn't get himself ahead. But it seems at the moment Bradley Holdham's got a lot of pace but just can't find his way through that McLaren as they head through in towards chicane at turn 6 and 7 further ahead. Josie Floke, even though he's on those medium competitive tyres, he's doing a great job to stick with these soft guys, and maybe if he can go from a medium to soft, he could be possibly in the best position coming the end of the race. So definitely Joseph is one to keep our eye out for, because he's doing a great job on those harder competitive tyres. And Hadley's just dropped back a little bit there from Joseph. He's just 5 tenths back as they head down towards turn 13, and Joseph could be looking to possibly get a move on Joost Noordijk, because he's got a lot of grip, and it seems some drivers are already on the softs starting to lose a little bit of that optimal grip.
We'll see what happens then, as we're going to get the first taste of DRS heading in towards turn number 1. Is anyone really going to be close enough to make a move into the corner? Of course, when you're in a DRS train effectively, there's no real way for you to use that to your advantage. Drake Dempsey certainly finding a way too, as now he's up the inside of Louis Welch. It's been a great start for the American driver, up 6 spots already in this Grand Prix after starting 19th on this grid. He's got through all the hard runs. Liam Stevens decided to pit under the VSC, and then Sergio Sobrino, of course, with that wing damage, he had to pit. So we'll see how those two fare later on in the Grand Prix. But it seems, yeah, Nathan, no one really is able to utilise that DRS to full effect and go for a move up the inside in towards turn number 1. And that is the power, really, of the DRS train, in the sense that everyone utilising it means that no one is going to get the advantage there.
Yeah, and the only ones who can really get an advantage are the top 2. Well, Tamash and Simon, but you know, they're not really going to make moves if it's not necessary. We see it throughout the whole of this game. If you're in first and the person in second has got DRS, then they're most likely not even going to overtake, unless the person in third or fourth is right behind. So we'll probably see this DRS train and all these positions stay the same for the next few laps. When the pit stops come, that is when it changes, because some people go for undercuts, some go for overcuts, and some might even go to different compounds. We might see someone go early onto the medium, go early onto the hards. Some might pit a bit later and go into a set of mediums. So we'll see what happens. So strategy, I think, is the key part in this race. You want to just try and get yourself through the order as much as you can with that pit stop, because that, you know, if you pit maybe 2 laps later, that could get you an extra few positions, because your tyres might be, obviously if your tyres are 2 or 3 laps newer, that, you know, you could find a few tenths of pace heading at that final corner down towards turn 1. So it's all about strategy, and all these drivers, I believe, have probably got engineers, so they're all discussing with each other what is the best plan to go with, and we'll see shortly, probably in around 10 laps, when the first people start to head down in towards the pits. But I don't think the soft runners will be pitting until around lap 15. The hard and medium runners could go out to about lap 20, lap 25.
It's a very long race here in Hungary. We've still got 30.5 laps left in this race, and it is a relatively slow circuit, so the times are in and around that mid-teens. So overall, Nathan, this can actually be one of the longest races on the calendar, so we'll see how this really does pan out in maybe the next 40 minutes or so, I feel, is how long this race is going to go on for. Of course, that's not counting for any safety cars that might incur. We've already had one VSC so far this evening. Who says that's going to be the last? We'll have to wait and see. It's a long race here in Hungary, and it's a race of attrition, which is why we're seeing so many drivers conserving their ERS and not going for these moves early on so they can use up that battery later on when it really does matter. However, we still see Jan Halliday getting close to the rear of Joseph Loke. Those soft tyres still going to be in good nick, I'd say, for Jan Halliday, and it means he can close up to the back of Joseph Loke and try and go for the move. But once again, the DRS that the Mercedes has been provided from Joost Noordijk in front of him is just allowing for him to pull away ever so slightly from Jan Halliday to the point that Jan can get close, but not close enough for the move.
Yeah, and you can also see, these soft runners are still pulling away because lots of Louis Welch, he's now 1.5 seconds back before turn 14, and that's Lukomski! Lukomski's put at turn 5!
Oh, he must have.
And he's beached it, but he had to reset the track to that. Oh, big shame for the pole sitter.
Oh, no.
Now,
he's caught the inside.
We have not seen that for a long time, but now for Race Clutch it's a 1-2. But big shame there for Lukomski.
That's a rookie error. That's something you can't be doing. He's sliding all over the place from that spin. His tyres going to be alight at this point, but that is, I'd imagine, completely his fault there, and something you just can't be doing at this level of play when you're in F2. That's really something you'd expect from drivers a lot lower down in the league. So Szymon Lukomski is not going to be happy with what's happened there. He'll be kicking himself in that cockpit, now relegated from first, leading this race quickest in qualifying, and the man commanding all 18 drivers behind him. And now he's relegated down into 17th position. He's still on the back of the train. So I guess the race isn't over for him. He can make some monstrous comeback if he really put the work in. But going to be an uphill climb for Szymon Lukomski at this point. And now, Nathan, 1-2 for Race Clutch. Tamas Gał and Lenny Pipinta leading the way. They can grab this race by the horns.
Yeah, and I have a feeling because they're in the same team, they're probably in the same voice call, so they can really work together to try and defend from lots of Max Fiesel. I need to say Grandpa because that's what it says on my screen. Joost Noordijk, Joseph Loke, all sitting behind and very closely behind. And I'm just watching Drake Dempsey, who looked for moving towards turn 2 on the outside, but a bit of a late move to the left meant that from the outside meant that Drake Dempsey just couldn't send it up the inside. So we'll see shortly if we can get a move between these, the Williams and the Aston Martin as they head down in towards turn 12. And to be fair, I'm surprised we haven't seen penalties by now, because normally we see a couple of people already with those 3-second time penalties, because the track limits are very harsh around this circuit, especially then like at turn 11. You also see so many people also get the track limits on the exit of turn 4, so I'm very surprised not to see any penalties at the moment. But still on board with Drake Dempsey as he heads out the final corner, trying to get a good look down towards turn 1 on Yannick, but he's got a great exit out of turn 14. He's just under 2/10 of a second back. We can see there Yannick using a bit of his battery just to pull a bit away, and you can see the gap are already 3/10 before the end of that first corner. So a big shame for Drake not to get a good run down towards turn 1 on that occasion. And also we've got to move it further up with Daniel Kjellson getting himself ahead of Jan Halliday up the inside in towards turn 2 and 3. Great move from him, put himself into that top 6 and do what his teammate unfortunately can't. He's his teammate still down in P17. Sergio Sobrino back into the pits, and he's got a penalty, so he probably will retire. And yes, he does. So a big shame for Sobrino, who qualified in the top 10, and yet again, second out of 3 races this season, he has retired from the race.
Now Joseph Loke, I think, is beginning to come into his own in terms of pace here. He pulled away completely from Jan Halliday, which allowed for Daniel Kjellson to make the move on him, and now he's cruising up to the back of Joost Noordijk. We'll see what happens, but I think we're starting to see the tides turn in terms of tyre performance here. The soft, 7 laps old at this point, they will begin to die out in the next few laps. The mediums still have that little bit of longevity left in them. Of course, all the hard runners in behind, Louis Welch, Phil McKee, Legan Rosenberg and Jerry Van Boosel, they're beginning to close up to the soft runners. A few laps ago, Nathan, it was 1.5 seconds between Drake Dempsey and Louis Welch. Now it's 9/10. So we'll see what happens as now we see a swap for the lead. Lenny Pepinter goes up the inside of his Alpine teammate for this evening. Tamas Gal relegated to P2, but there was no defense whatsoever there. It's a very tactical move for the two of them, allowing Valeni Popinta to lead this race. That'll let Tamas Gal recharge a battery, save his tyres as well a little bit, and these two really doing a great job of playing the team game.
Yep, they are. And I'm just on board with Joseph Loke, who's got it seems he's started to get a little bit more grip now than like Joseph Loke, who's just sitting ahead of him as they head through in towards turn 4. So I don't think it'll be long before we see Joseph Loke just trying to make a move and get himself into those podium positions. Further out, we can also see now Louis Welch has actually dropped outside the 1 second gap to Drake them. So it just shows that the DRS down towards turn 1, it can lose you quite a bit of time, because they went from being about 8 or 9 tenths back on the entrance to turn 14 to being 1.1 seconds back down towards turn 1. And now you can see they're slowly started to gain back into that 1 second as they head down in towards turn, well, in towards about turn 11. And Joseph Loke, you can see making a bit of a mistake into turn 11 after to just downshift through there, which isn't something you probably would have wanted to do, because it's also brought Daniel Kjelsen back within 0.6 of a second of him as they head down to start to finish this 9th, 8th to 35th lap. Back then towards turn 1, and still Race Clutch leading the way first and second, but the issue they will have is when it comes to possibly a safety car. One of them's going to, well, it'll be Tamas at this point, under a lot of issues, because, well, if you pit together, you're going to end up double stacking, and that will also mean you'll probably lose about 3 or 4 seconds in the pits.
Yeah, double stack not possible on this F1 23 game, so if there's a situation like that where all the drivers are coming to the pit lane at the same time, the likes of Tamas Gal and I'm trying to see who else, Yannick Schmidt right behind his teammate, they will not be in ideal situations whatsoever, but we'll keep our fingers crossed that that is not the case. I think now, Nathan, we're going to see things start to get a little bit processional as everyone's settled into their rhythm. Everyone wants to just maintain their tyres as long as possible and go as long as they can in this race, so that is why we're not really seeing any moves at this point in the Grand Prix. It's only lap number 10 of 35, still over 25 laps to go in this race, so really we can't sort of tell what's happening at this point. Once we start to see the pit stops coming out, then the picture gets a little bit clearer and we'll be able to see who is really in the fight for this win. But definitely the Race Clutch drivers, Max Wiesel, Joost Noordijk, Joseph Loke, I'd say, has got to be the one to watch out for in this Grand Prix. On the mediums, will be able to go longer, pull off some sort of overcut, then have quicker tyres towards the end of this race. But that begs the question, will he be able to make the use of the potential softs at the end of the Grand Prix? No, Yannick Schmidt at the end of lap number 10 will come into the pits. Very early stop for him.
Yeah, that is very early, so we'll go probably onto a set of hards maybe at this point to take yourself all the way to the end of the Grand Prix. We'll see as he heads into the pits what tyres will be waiting for, and I believe it will be a set of, I think it is a set of hards as he heads enters in the pitch. Yes, it is. So hard for Yannick Schmidt. So he's gone very early for a big undercut on some of the drivers ahead. So we'll see if that undercut will work. We know a lot of times that the undercut can be quite strong at the start of the second stint, but when it comes towards the end, sometimes those drivers on that overcut strategy sometimes get the edge and you could lose a lot of positions. But with this being a track that's quite difficult to overtake, this could help Yannick Schmidt a little bit. If he can get that initial move on those pitting later, he can just try and defend, because the only real opportunity for overtaking is down in towards that first corner.
And that actually leads me on to the point I was making before Yannick came into the pit lane about Joseph Loke, whether or not he's going to be able to utilise the softer tyres later on in this race to their fullest extent, because it is so difficult to overtake on this circuit. When the DRS train forms, really that opportunity in towards that first corner is completely gone. So we'll see if he's able to use the softer tyres later in this race to actually attack the drivers ahead of him. That remains to be seen, but it will be very tough for Joseph Loke. This can work on other circuits. As now Race Imtiaz, both Williams into the pit lane at the end of lap number 11 this time by. See what they're planning at the minute in the Williams camp. I still think it's a little bit earlier. You could maybe go till lap 15, I'd say, on a set of the softs, and go to the mediums possibly towards the end of this race. But it seems like that is what is going to work for Williams. Actually, it's already medium tyres for race.
Yeah, so completely different than the Williams camp. One on the mediums, one on the hards. You can see Yannick Schmidt just getting ahead of Ray standing towards turn 1. And my question is, can you take the mediums 23 laps? Or at least, well, I think they'll go 23 laps, but will they be able to do 23 laps comfortably without losing lots and lots of time by the time they get to the end? Because that is a long, long time to take a set of tyres, especially a set of mediums.
I don't think the undercut's going to be too bad around here, given how difficult it is to overtake. If pitting 1 or 2 laps before all the drivers in front of you allows for you to jump a few places and have that track position, it could be a good investment later on in the Grand Prix. It really is just a game of chess at the minute, trying to cerebrally outplay your opponents at this point. Will we see any of the leaders come into the pit lane at the end of lap number 12? Both Alpines going to stay out for at least one extra lap. I believe everyone really in that lead train will stay out on the circuit. Never mind Tycho Hardy and Drake Dempsey, both of them at the tail end of this soft runner train with a medium filling of Joseph Loke. They'll come into the pit lane at the end of lap number 12. We'll see what tyres both Tycho Hardy and Drake Dempsey begin to fit. And now, Nathan, that we've seen these drivers begin to come into the pit lane. The undercut has been triggered. I think the top guys, they've got to start thinking about when they want to finish this race.
Yeah, I think they'll be looking at it within the next 2 or 3 laps, because you can see already there's been a decent advantage from Yannick to Tycho. That's already what? Needed 2 seconds, and I think Yannick originally was behind Tycho, so that undercut working very well indeed for Yannick and for Race as well, who's also got himself a second ahead of Tycho Hardy. Drake Dempsey just popped himself right behind Tycho Hardy, and I believe he was the one battling Yannick Schmidt early on, so you can see that undercut very, very strong at this point in the race. Jonas Nordijk also getting close to the back of Max Wiesler, who's got a 1.2 second gap to the top 2, so he's starting to lose track of both of the race cars ahead, and it's bringing Jonas Nordijk and Joseph Loke very close. So I'm starting to think maybe we could see Max Wiesler in the pits very soon if he's starting to lose pace on these soft tyres. And I think because we've seen 3 of them go into mediums, I can see probably everyone else also go onto a set of medium tyres. As you can see, a couple coming in, so that's Tamas Gal, I think, was heading to pits. Max Wiesel also heading into pits. Jonas Nordijk stays out. What about Joseph Loke? He stays out. Daniel Kjelton stays out. Jan Halliday stays out. And we also see Bradley Holden pop into pits, and then we can see the original hard runners of Bjorn, Louis, Legend and Jerry start to make a few more positions, because everyone else on the soft is starting to head in towards that pit lane. So Fionn McKee now up into the top 6.
We'll see how this works out for them later on in the Grand Prix. They're going to have that overcut on their rivals and be on much softer tyres, much younger tyres later on in this race, as Tamas Gal will emerge out of the pit lane behind, or maybe just ahead of Yannick Schmidt on 3-lap-old hard tyres. Yannick Schmidt's going to have a decent run through here, but will not be able to get the DRS. Tamas is actually going to be able to use the DRS that he had from following his teammate in the final sector. Of course, it shares one detection zone around this circuit between those 2 DRS zones, so Tamas Gal actually being able to use the DRS heading in towards turn number 2 has really saved him from attack from Yannick Schmidt. However, unfortunately for Max Wiesel, he has now got 2 cars in between himself and Tamas Gal when they were just 1 second away from each other, just with 1 lap to go. So it's not worked out for Max Wiesel, catching up to both Yannick Schmidt and Race Imtiaz. I think he'd much rather preferred to have both himself and Tamas Gal in behind. And now Lenny Pepperton will come into the pit lane, as will Joost Nordijk. Joseph Loke will stay out for at least 1 extra lap. Daniel Shelton into the box as well. And I'd imagine, no, Jan Halliday going to stay out at least 1 more lap here to begin lap number 15.
Yep, and you can see a bit of defence there from Lekomsky in towards turn 14. He also heads into pits, and that is the last thing he wanted to see. He didn't want to see Tamas Gal sitting right behind him when Tamas has pitted, and he hasn't. But he'll head back into pits. He also go to a set of medium tyres to end his first stint. You can see Kjelton, Nordijk just popping out in towards that first corner. We can see a bit of a battle in towards turn 1. That is Yannick Schmidt looking for a move on Lenny Pepinta, and Lenny just about gets himself ahead of the Williams as they head down in towards turn 4. Do we see a move from anyone? I don't think we will. No, we don't. No one making a move in towards that second corner. You can see Yannick Schmidt yet again had that DRS down towards turn 4 and just in towards turn 2. Tries to get himself ahead of Lenny, but just couldn't have that speed in towards there to get himself up the inside. So this is probably where he's under a bit of pressure. He's on the hards. Everyone else behind and ahead, he's on a set of mediums. Before, you know, there'll be time where eventually his hards just won't have the grip.
There's question marks surrounding Yannick Schmidt and his strategy this evening. He didn't qualify well, but now he's potentially got himself in the fight for the winnings at the moment in a net P3. So far it's been an incredibly well-worked Grand Prix from Yannick Schmidt, but the German driver, of course, is on the hards, and he's got a whole train of medium runners down from 7 cars following in tow on a fresh set of the mediums. He's got the oldest tyres out of anyone in this train at the moment. It's going to be really touch and go as to whether he's actually able to hold on to these positions. Now Jan Halliday comes into the pit lane at the end of lap number 15. He's had the longest tenure out of anyone on the set of the softs in the overcut. We'll see if that bears fruit for him later in this Grand Prix, as now Max Wiesel is making the move on Race Imtiaz. In towards the corner they go, and this is the power that the fresher tyres have, but Race Imtiaz not going to give this one up too easily. Heading down in towards turn number 2 though, Max Wiesel's been able to clear one Williams. He'll get through on the other as well as he dives late up the inside of Yannick Schmidt, and now we'll try and track down the 2 Alpines who are really running away with this race.
To me, it seemed like Yannick let him through towards turn 2. Yannick completely moved off the racing line, and Max Wiesel just slotted himself up the inside easily. So maybe Yannick let him through there, because it didn't look like Yannick put much of a fight at all in towards that second corner. So either he let him through because he wants Max to do well, or he doesn't want to fight too hard on these hard tyres. And that will pose many issues, because everyone else behind will also be looking to get themselves through. You can see Tycho Hardy right on the back of Raiz Imtiaz as they head through turns 11, and surely they'll be wanting to get themselves ahead of race so they can try and fight after Yannick Schmidt, who's already nearly outside of second to Max Wiesel. Now this is good for the top 3, not good for those 5th and below, because they're all stuck behind a driver who's slower on harder compounded tyres. You can see as they come through at turn 13, Yannick Schmidt's gap. Is it going to be a second as before they get to the detection zone? I don't think it was. I think it was just over a second at the detection zone. So I don't think there's any DRS down towards turn 1 for Yannick Schmidt. This could really ruin his race. Tycho Hardy gaining on the back of Raiz Imtiaz. Can he make a move in towards turn 1? No DRS for Yannick Schmidt. There is DRS for Raiz Imtiaz, who makes a move on his teammate. Bit of push to pass there between those two down towards turn 1. Now Tycho Hardy, can he make a move up the inside of Yannick Schmidt? He will go up the inside of Yannick Schmidt in towards turn 2. Gets very close to the inside line. Yannick will try and fight it back into turn 3. Can't do so. So now that sends Ray Dempsey around the outside at turn 3, and then he gets pushed off track. So they head through up towards turn 4. Legend Rosenberg gets a penalty as Tomasz Gal's trying to fight his way through. There's battles everywhere, Dan, and now Yannick Schmidt is literally pretty much a moving chicane.
Yannick Schmidt going to be swallowed up by the pack here. Drake Dempsey did pick up a penalty. It came at the exact same time as Legend Rosenberg, which is why we didn't see that on our screens. But because he was forced out there, Drake Dempsey actually took a 3-second time penalty. I think the stewards are definitely going to remove that one. And now Yannick Schmidt going to get a penalty of his own, holding up Joost Noordijk at this point in the final section. Joost has got to go for a move up the inside. However, Yannick Schmidt really providing the defensive drive on Joost Noordijk, who has 4-lap pressure tyres, which is a world of difference here on this F123 game. Little bit of contact between the pair of them. Now Yannick Schmidt with those tyres on fire is going to slide his way through the penultimate corner and to concede that position. The battling still isn't over. Now Tomasz Gal is through on Legend Rosenberg. A little bit of contact between them two into the first corner. These two Alpines of Tomasz Gal and Lenny Pepinter are completely dominating this Grand Prix. A whole 2 seconds clear of Max Wiesel, running in a net P3.
Yeah, no, Yannick Schmidt defending heavily. Daniel Helsen looking for a move for him in towards turn 2. Got up the inside. Yannick goes a little bit deep. Bradley Holdham also going to be looking to get himself through as well as they're heading towards turn 3. A little bit too far back from Bradley at the moment. He won't be able to make a move into turn 4, so I think he'll be looking possibly for a move down in towards that chicane, depending on the exit he gets out of turn 5, because these hard tyres for Yannick Schmidt are already dying. He's already losing so many positions. I knew he'd be slower, but I didn't think he'd be this much slower already after only 7 laps on those hard compounded tyres. So they're heading towards that chicane now at turn 6 and 7. They'll head through in towards this Mickey Mouse section in this middle sector, and surely we could see a move from Bradley Holdham very shortly. You can see just having to lift off even more than he should, as Tycho Hardy gets ahead of Raiz Imtiaz, who drops down a few positions a little bit further ahead, and they're all trying to make moves everywhere on the field. You can see as well there's a 3-second gap between Max Wiesel and Tycho Hardy in towards turn 12. Raiz Imtiaz up the inside of Joe Van Bossel. Joe Van Bossel off the circuit. Joost Noordijk right on the outside of Raiz Imtiaz in towards turn 13. Tries to make an overtake. He can't do so. We have to try and hook it around the outside through there. He can't make the overtake just yet. Have to make it down towards that first corner. Drake Dempsey looking to get himself ahead of Tycho Hardy. We've got a few people on those hards. They're popping themselves in towards the pit lane, and unfortunately for Jerry Van Bossel, hasn't gone into pits. He's already down to P14. Joost Noordijk to the outside line of Raiz Imtiaz in towards turn 1. Put himself into P8, and still a lot of battling going on. Further behind, Jerry Van Bossel just being eaten up by the whole field as well, and still Yannick Schmidt with that penalty down in P11. This race is going from bad to worse.
Yeah, it's so hard to track what's actually happening in this Grand Prix. However, still at the front of the order, the two Alpines leading the way, but Max Wiesel has been able to catch up to them pretty decently. He's now within a second of Tomasz Gal and will have the DRS to his advantage. Joost Noordijk, we've been watching him getting his hands very dirty in this Grand Prix. Got some of the freshest tyres in this train. He's up the inside at the chicane of Drake Dempsey. A fantastic move there from Joost Noordijk to elevate himself in to 7th position. So net P6. He'll be onto the back of Tycho Hardy very soon, but Tycho is going to be able to get some DRS on his F7R teammate of Legend Rosenberg. Yet to pit in this Grand Prix. Also yet to pit is Joseph Loke. Never mind, Joseph Loke at the end of lap number 19 will come into the pit lane to take off that very worn set of the mediums. Now yellow flags in at sector 3. That's Yannick Schmidt. Really has had a tough time in this Grand Prix, and I think those hard tyres really was not the strategy to go on. Just do an extra 1 or 2 laps on a set of the softs, and then you can go on to the mediums. He'll come back into the pit lane. I'd imagine Nathan to retire from this race.
Indeed, as now we've got Daniel House up the inside at turn 1. Yannick gets a 5-second penalty, so he's going to be done in this race. Big shame for Yannick, who was looking, but that strategy could work, and the strategy completely gets undone, so he's out of this race on lap 20 of 35. And now, the man to watch, Joseph Floke, he's come out of the pits on a set of soft tyres. We know he's aggressive. He definitely likes to send late moves, so he's going to be one that hopefully can make his position through. And with his aggression on these soft tyres, let's hope it doesn't cause a safety car.
We'll see what happens. I mean, the yellow flag's out in Sector 1, and that's for Yannick Schmidt. Stricken Williams out of this race, unfortunately. At the moment, though, we're watching Joost Noordijk on the rear of Tycho Hardy, now without any DRS on Legend Rosenberg, who came into the pit lane at the end of lap number 19. So, Tycho Hardy really will be swallowed up by Joost Noordijk, and that is just the difference that 2 lap fresher tyres make on this F123 game. The tyre wear is so monumental on this newer game. It's great to see, really, that there can be actually such a difference that it really makes other strategies viable. Now in towards an ultimate corner, Joost Noordijk practically pushing his fellow countrymen through that final section. These two, you can consider them actually in a title fight with each other, just 2 points separating these two. First for Joost Noordijk, fourth for Tycho Hardy, and Joost Noordijk is going to be able to make his way up the inside of that corner. Further back behind, Daniel Shelson also going for the move on Drake Dempsey, who's got some pretty worn out medium tyres of his own. 2 lap fresher for Daniel Shelson in comparison to Drake Dempsey, and that will be an easy move up the inside then for Daniel. Where is Joseph Loke in all of this? He's still running in P10 for the time being, but Race Imtiaz and Bradley Hold'em, both of them F7R teammates up ahead, doing battle, allowing for the Mercedes driver to catch up.
Yeah, Joseph Loke now just behind Jan Halliday's headed himself back into the pits, so he's going to be DNF'd from this race as well. Big shame for Jan Halliday in the Aston Martin. Joseph Loke, he's now 1.7 seconds back from Bradley and Ray's going down towards turn 1. The gap was just over 3 seconds, so he's gained over a second and a half in these last few corners. Yes, those two ahead were battling, but this gap is now under a second. Joseph Loke has gained a second in about 5 corners. He's done some absolute great pace on these brand new soft tyres. He bet his personal best by 1.4 seconds in the middle sector, so he is definitely going to be looking to get himself into that top 9, top 8 very, very shortly. We come out of turn 13 down towards turn 14, the final corner on the 22nd lap, and nearly Joseph Loke taking it at the back of Race Imtiaz. They exit turn 14 down towards turn 1, slipstream and DRS 4. Joseph, who takes the fastest lap of a 16.779. Daniel popping himself into P5, but still on board with Joseph Loke in towards turn 1, breaks later to the inside, gets himself ahead of Race Imtiaz, then towards that first corner, now into the top 9. His next person to get through on is Bradley Hold'em, and then just ahead of him is Drake Dempsey, who's got a 1.5 second gap to Tycho Hardy. So if Joseph can clear these two quickly as he can, he's got a bit of free air then to try and catch up to the back of Tycho and Daniel.
We'll see what happens then as this race continues on. Joseph Loke has some incredible pace at the minute. Those softs will not last forever, and by lap number 30, those tyres are going to be completely shot by the end of this race. So he has to make these moves as early as possible to try and elevate himself as much as he can. And then once no one wants to fight later on in the end of this race, then he can just sit back comfortably and take a decent position in the end of it. But he's all over the rear now. Bradley Hold'em heading in towards the final sector. He'll go up the inside in towards, I believe, turn number 12. Great move there from Joseph Loke. Now will be all over the rear of Drake Dempsey, who is 2 seconds off the back of Tycho Hardy, so no DRS for the American driver. It's going to be possibly the easiest move of the night for Joseph Loke in towards turn number 1. He's right on board with the Mercedes driver. Doesn't even need to use the DRS, I think, heading in towards that corner. He's got that open anyways, not using any of the battery whatsoever, and he's got himself now into P7. He's 2 seconds to the rear of Tycho Hardy, where it is going to get a lot more difficult, Nathan, to make those moves on these guys who are a lot quicker than the drivers we've already seen Joseph Loke overtake.
Yeah, so Joseph's now on the back of a 3-car train, so it's probably his biggest challenge he's had so far. It's Jost, then Daniel, then Tycho, so we'll see what he can do against these three. If he can get himself ahead of these three, I don't think anything will stop him at this race. He's on some really great form at the moment, so he comes through turn 5. You can see he's just bringing that gap down by a couple of tenths every single corner. The gap 1.4 seconds as they head through in towards the chicane turn 6 and 7. The gap's 1.2. Now in towards this middle set, this is where he gains the most time because he's able to just got a lot more, use more traction. And you can see he gained 0.3 of a second, now within a second of that 3-car, now 4-car train. which will go down towards turn 1. So we'll see if Joseph can try and make a move on any of these ahead. Tycho Hardy will be his first person to get past. Tycho's got the flashing red light on the back of the car, meaning he's got less than 10% battery. So Joseph, with over, I think, 70%, is getting in a good position just to burn a bit of battery down to turn 1 with a great exit out to turn 14 to get himself into P6. As they head now down towards turn 1, you can see a bit of battery being used there from Joseph Loke, and it just seems like it's going to be an easy move in towards turn number 1 to the inside of Tycho Hardy. Tycho tries to brake later, can't do anything against those soft tires on that Mercedes, and Joseph Loke now into that top 6 and looking to get very, very close to that top 4 position.
Nice stuff then from Joseph Loke, getting himself ahead of Tycho Hardy. Bradley Holdham is able to get through on Drake Dempsey as well for P8 in this Grand Prix. Those two have got some very old medium tyres strapped on, as now Jerry Van Boosel is coming to the pit lane for a fresh set of the softs, and Liam Stevens, who did 21 laps on his set of the mediums, got to pit after he pitted questionably, I'd say, under the VSC. Now it's a set of the soft tyres for the lone two-stopper in this Grand Prix. We're still watching Joseph Loke on an absolute charge up the order. You can see as we ride on board with Mercedes runs the difference in pace that he has in comparison to Daniel Shelton with 9-lap-old mediums strapped to his McLaren, only 4-lap-old softs on that Mercedes in towards turn number 12. Late move up the inside. Daniel Shelton with no defence whatsoever there. Joseph Loke, that is another position gained. He's on an absolute charge. I believe that's now 6 places in the past 3 laps. So he's incredible with these late overtaking manoeuvres. We'll see what he can do on the back of Joost Noordijk, who once again is not really going to have any defence whatsoever. Into the corner they go. He'll see Joost Noordijk in his mirrors very soon. That's Joseph Loke now up into P4 at the beginning of lap number 25. 3.8 seconds is the gap between himself and the top 3. Nathan, I'm wondering, will those soft tyres hold out long enough for him to really take the fight to those guys later on in this race?
It's going to be close, but I think it will come down to the final few laps, because that gap is still coming down tremendously. But as you said, the tyres will start to die, and he will start to lose pace to those in that top 3. But I said earlier on that overtakes would be scarce. I said we won't get many overtakes. It might be a bit of a dull race. Well, Joseph Loke is here to prove me wrong, and he's done a good job moving from, I think he was around 11th or 12th at the start of his set. He's now up into the top 4. So many overtakes being made from Joseph Loke. He's now 3.2 seconds back from the likes of Lenny Pipinto, Tamás Gal and Max Diesel, who we haven't seen for the past 10 laps. They've just been kind of driving off in front, not bothered at all, just having their own race. Joseph Loke is going to be the only one who can deny them at this point. The gap as they head in towards turn 12 is 3 seconds. It's come down by 6/10 in that lap. So Joseph's still making inroads on that top 3. But the question is, will he make that? Will he make enough of a gap to them in the next 3-4 laps? Because I think that is when his tyres will probably start to die off around 8 or 9 laps old.
Yeah, he's still only on 6-lap-old tyres at this point. He's taken a second out of the advantage that Max Wiesel had on him. So making some good progress on the back of the Red Bull, and that is allowing for Joost Noordijk, Daniel Shelton and Tycho Hardy, who have been able to keep pace at least with Joseph Loke, to catch up as well. So it's going to allow actually for this to be a very close finale in this race. Joseph Loke going to bridge that gap between the top 3 who got the best of the traffic. The rest of the drivers in behind really had to fight their way through the field. And Jerry Van Bussel now the fastest lap of the race. So Joseph Loke essentially will be bridging that gap. Very nice to see. We could have potentially a 7-car fight, maybe. That's being very hopeful. We could potentially have 7-6 cars scrapping for the lead at the end of this race. I'm very excited to see, with 10 laps to go.
Yeah, and the gap stayed 2.5 seconds as they head in towards turn 13. So the gap yet again coming down by another half a second. And this time in that middle set, though, Joseph Loke was 1.4 seconds down on his personal best. So he's definitely starting to lose a little bit of pace. It's not enough yet to, it's not enough yet before we see the likes of Joost Noordijk catching back. But he's not gaining in a second and a half of a lap. He's gaining about half a second a lap. He heads down towards turn 1. The gap 2.2 seconds. Joost Noordijk just about in that 1 second as they head down to turn 1. So there will be some DRS for Joost Noordijk in towards that first corner, brings him to about 7.5 tenths of Joseph in towards the braking zone at turn 1. But you can see yet again Joseph being able to brake later. He gained a couple of tenths back from that as he was able to gain some in the braking zone at that first corner. So we be coming through. 8 of turns 2 and 3. The gap 2.4 seconds. Joseph actually lost a couple of tenths down towards that first corner on those top 3, where you can see on Joseph's onboard just about inside as they head over the top of the crest at turn 4. Joseph 8 tenths down on his personal best in the first set to Joost Noordijk. Gets a 3-second time penalty. That is really going to be detrimental for his race. It puts Daniel Kjelsen and Tycho Hardy into a very good position. So we head through him towards the chicane, and maybe we could see now Daniel Kjelsen know that there's a penalty for Joost. He could try and really not push too hard on the back of the Haas.
Yeah, he can just take it easy. Know that Joost Noordijk does have a penalty. However, Nathan, those penalties can get removed by a steward's inquiry. So as, oh dear, Joost Noordijk going completely off the circuit at turn number 11. He's used a warning there, I think, to keep with Joseph Loke. I think that might have been intentional, actually, from Joost Noordijk there, but he's just about going to lose DRS this time by to Joseph Loke, and he's got himself a warning on purpose there. He's not going to be able to get that penalty removed at all. So, bit of a cheeky strategy there from Joost Noordijk. It's not going to work out in his favour. Now Joseph Loke is just 1.9 seconds to the rear of Max Wiesel at this point. Nathan, he's catching ever so slightly, but down these first 2 straight, he's losing a lot of time because there's no slipstream and there's no DRS for Joseph Loke, which allows for Lenny Pepper, Tamas Kjau and Max Wiesel to all pull away from Joseph Loke, who's still catching. He's gained a few tenths in the last lap or so, but it's not going to be enough, I think, to really take the fight to them at the end of this race.
Yeah, I don't know whether he'll be able to try and fight for the one. I think he might be able to try and fight for P3 Max V, so I think he'll definitely be fighting for P4, because you can see Joost Noordijk just losing a lot of time. Their gap already 1.5 seconds as they head in towards that middle set. Then obviously Joost got the penalty, then behind him is nearly a second to Daniel Kjelsen, then another 2 seconds back to Tycho Hardy. So I think Joseph is definitely going to be in this P4 as long as he doesn't make any mistakes. Can he get P3? Possibly. Can he fight for the lead? I don't think that will be quite possible, as these tires you can see are slowly starting to drop off now. He's got 1.4 seconds to the rear of Max Wiesel. Then towards turn 1 he'll lose a couple of tenths because he hasn't got that DRS, so we could see him being about 1.5 seconds back in towards that first corner. Then he'll maybe lose another tenth in towards turn 2 and 3 because of the DRS again. But actually he's got a great exit out of turn 13. It's not going to be a DRS then towards turn 1. The gap's 1.2 seconds. You can see he's lost about a tenth and a half there in towards that first corner. 1.2 seconds back on the exit as they head down in towards turns 2 and 3. I think at this point Joseph's next lap should be in that DRS of Max Wiesel.
Yeah, in the second and third sector is when those softs are going to be at their best, and he can use the grip that I think he does still have in comparison to Lenny Pepper, Tamas Kjau and Max Wiesel, especially Tamas Kjau and Max Wiesel, who have the slightly older tyres out of the top 3. He's still got ever so slightly a little bit more pace there. He's able to maybe use some of his battery. He's got 41% in the back of that Mercedes. Just have a look at the other drivers. 95% for Lenny Pepper. Tamas Kjau is only on 38%, and then Max Wiesel's got 70% in the back of his Red Bull. But in towards sector 3 now, he's just on the fringe of being within that 1 second window that he needs to open up that letterbox at the rear wing, have that drag reduction in towards that first corner, and that will allow for Joseph Loke really to try and take the fight to these guys, as now he's firmly within that 1 second window, 8 tenths to the rear of Max Wiesel. We have a race on our hands with 6 laps to go. Lap number 30, Lenny Pepper still leading from his teammate Tamas Kjau. The race clutch drivers doing a tremendous job of holding off Max Wiesel and completely controlling this race. Max Wiesel remaining in 3rd. Now Daniel Kjelsen ahead of Joost Noordijk. Noordijk already does have a penalty, so it's not really going to change anything in the end result. Joseph Loke still in 4th position. Nathan, we'll see what happens here.
Yeah, the gap's just under 7 tenths as they head up towards turn 4. It's going to come down to next lap. I think we could see Joseph right on the back of Max Wiesel as they head down towards turn 1 next time around. Further back, we can still see Joost on the back of Daniel, but they're not going to make any moves at all. And then further back down the field, I don't think there's anything really happening at all, apart from Drake Dempsey on the back of Bradley. But Drake has got a penalty, so we will lose that position even if he gets it away from Bradley Holden. So nothing much to look at down at the rear of the field. But keeping our eyes on Joseph Look, the gap 5 tenths of a second as they head through to the end of this middle sector. And then we'll see them go back down towards turn 1 very shortly. And we'll see if we can see possibly an overtake from Joseph Loke. But Max Wiesel has got more batteries, though he will be keen to use a bit of that battery to keep the Mercedes driver behind, because the last thing he wants is Joseph ahead us, then it could create a really difficult job for him to get himself back ahead of Joseph when it comes to the final parts of this race. So we're heading towards turn 40 in the final corner. This is the closest Joseph has been to the top 3. Down towards turn 1, it's not been the best exit for Joseph. He's not really gained much on that final corner, so he's not going to gain anything down towards turn 1. I think possibly this could be the limits of these tyres for Joseph, because these tyres will start to die off now. We're 11 laps in, so the drop-off was hit a few laps ago, and the drop-off will only get worse and worse and worse as we get the final 4 laps of the race done, as Phil McKee popped himself into the points ahead of Reis Imtiaz in towards that first one. You can see Reis got some DRS then towards turn 2, but so has Phil McKee, so there's not going to be any gain at all between those two in towards the end part of this first sector.
Well, it's one thing to catch a driver, it's another thing to overtake, and I think Joseph Loke finding out the hard way at this point in the race. He's caught up to the top 3, but it is a very difficult task for him to actually make a move stick on Max Wiesel, especially when Max has got so much more battery. 83% in comparison to 54%. That is a world of a difference in terms of battery percentage. So Joseph Loke has got to close as much as he can in this final sector, then try and get him on the exit of the corner heading in towards turn number 1. Both of these guys have DRS, so the effects of that are essentially nullified. Max Wiesel can burn as much battery as he wants down that main straight and probably still have more in terms of the ERS situation in comparison to Joseph Loke. So he's got to make this move where Max Wiesel maybe won't expect it now on the exit of the final corner. Here comes Joseph Loke in towards turn number 1. He is catching to the back of Max Wiesel. We see a late move up the inside. He sells the dummy, fakes going right, but will stay in line with that Red Bull through turn number 1 off the exit of the corner and towards turn number 2. He gets a slight slide off the exit, and unfortunately that means that Joseph Loke is going to have to spend another lap looking at the rear of that Red Bull, and each lap that passes, the gap is getting closer in terms of pace to those mediums and the softs.
Yeah, but also we noticed that Max Wiesel's also getting into the back of the top 2. He's now just 4 tenths behind Tamas Gal, and Tamas Gal's already 4 tenths behind Lenny Pepita, so they're all closing in now as Joseph Loke has caught up. We could have a 4-car battle for the lead on these final few laps. This could be some great final lap action, and at this point, because they're all pretty much equal in pace, because of their tyres, I think any of them can come away with a victory, depending on what happens. Obviously, on that run down towards turn 1 for the ones who have the DRS compared to the ones who won't have the DRS. Obviously, Lenny Pepinta on that final lap will be under a lot of pressure from Tamas Gal, as Tamas will have DRS down towards turn 1, then another dose of DRS down in towards turn 2.
Lenny Pepinta's completely full on the battery. He's stayed at 100% for this entire fight, and I don't think he's used a sliver of it ever since he took the lead of this Grand Prix. Lenny Pepinta really is controlling this race to perfection. I think Tamas Gal is the weakest link in this train. He's got the least amount of battery out of everyone at this point. He's around about level with Joseph Loke, and Joseph Loke is on the slightly fresher, and I'd still say slightly quicker tyres. So I think Tamas Gal, if anything happens in this race, it is going to come down to him. Will he attack Lenny Pepinta, or will he defend from Max Wiesel and Joseph Loke in behind? We'll have to wait and see. It is now 3 laps to go in this Grand Prix. Jerry Van Boosel going to come into the pit lane. That makes it 4 retirements from this race. A very unfortunate display from him this evening. His AlphaTauri teammate Tycho Hardy still running in P7 today, so it's been a decent showing from him once again, but it's not going to be enough to take the fight to the likes of Max Wiesel and Tamas Gal in the title fight. Joost Noordijk as well with the penalty is going to drop ever so slightly, and I think Max Wiesel, regardless of the outcome here, Nathan, will come away with the championship lead here.
Yeah, I think he definitely will. He's done a great job as well, hasn't he? Obviously, unfortunate in Qatar for him to finish outside the points, but here today, yet again, done a tremendous job in qualifying and in this race to be fighting on 2 teammates who will, they've got a lot more manpower than Max Wiesel. It's 2 against 1 pretty much between the Alpine and the Red Bull. So Max is doing a great job just to sit on the back of these who are not really, he's not really put much of a fight really. He's just kind of sat behind them and kind of letting things happen. When he comes to the point where he needs to battle, that's when he will. And we know Max is one of those who can get aggressive when he needs to. Joseph Loke, however, starting to slowly back off to the back of Max. He's that gap 7 tenths heading towards that first corner. Max Wiesel was only 3 tenths back off Tamas Gal in towards that first corner. So you can see now these medium tyres, I think, are starting to become a bit more stronger than the softs. So it's constantly changing between the softs for Joseph and between the mediums for the top 3 of who's on the quicker tyres as we head back down towards turn number 4. And we can see Louis Welch, he's just losing a place there to Reis Imtiaz. He's down to P12, unfortunately. No points at the moment for Louis Welch, who took victory last time in Qatar. So yet again, another very disappointing showing for Louis Welch. Maybe he can get some points on the last lap, but I don't think that will be very likely.
Some sort of some second race win hangover that we're seeing here in PSGL. I mean, Max Diesel struggling in Qatar, now Louis Welch struggling here in Hungary. Maybe next time Lenny Pepinter races, if he does end up winning this Grand Prix, he is going to completely struggle for pace. We'll have to wait and see. But now, as we head through the final sector for the penultimate time, this is where everything kicks off. This is when that 100% battery is not going to matter when you come to the finish line. You've got to use all your resources now and maximize your chances of winning. Will we see Max Wiesel go for the move on Tamas Gal in towards turn number 1? We'll have to wait and see. He's got to go lurching up the inside to really make this move work, but into the corner they go. They will all remain in the exact same position. So Lenny Pepinter still leading the way, now utilizing some of his battery. Joseph Loke on the rear of Max Wiesel in towards turn number 2. Is that all the opportunity gone in this race? We'll have to wait and see. Joseph Loke is still all over the rear of Max Wiesel, but climbing up the hill. I think those soft tyres, Nathan, they've not got any more pace.
Yeah, definitely, but I think also going on to that final lap, Max Wiesel also had a lot more battery than Joseph Loke, so that put him in a very good position down towards that first corner. So they enter now in towards turn 6 and 7. Still Lenny ahead. He's got 76% battery compared to Tamas Gal's 17%. So I think now, Dan, when we come through the final corners, even no matter what Tamas can fight with, Lenny's got a lot more battery, so he'll just be able to pull away down in towards turn 12.
Absolutely, I think Lenny Pepinter is in the bag at this point. He's still got 78% in the battery. Joseph Loke is all over the road. He's off the track and he's lost a lot of time now to Max Wiesel. There was a great idea with the soft, but it's just not executed to perfection. As now through the final corners, we're going to have once again another separate winner here in F2. It was both Red Bulls winning round number 1 and round number 2, but it's a reserve driver this evening, Lenny Pepinter, allowing for Tamas Gal to take victory across the line. Tamas Gal wins this race ahead of Lenny Pepinter, who concedes that position and allows for Tamas Gal to take victory in this race. Max Wiesel ends up in third. Lenny Pepinter, what? Why? Why would he do that? I mean,
well, it's I suppose for race coach's side, it's a team game, isn't it? And well, Tamas Gal wants to fight for the championship. He's just been let through. Now the question is, was he forced to be let through, or did Lenny think, you know what, you can take it?
That's not a fuel thing. I'm seeing
it's got to be not.
No, they don't run out of fuel on this game, and you wouldn't run out of fuel right on the line. You would lose a lot of pace when you're actually trying to save fuel to get to the finish. Lenny Pepinter's just let him through. That's what's happened there for what seems like no reason aside from the fact that Tamas Gal is a full-time driver. Lenny Pepinter doesn't need this win, and essentially he's allowed for his teammate to take victory when I think, on merit, Pepinter deserved this race completely. Yeah,
but it seemed he was happy to let Tamas take it away. So, Tamas Gal, in surprising scenes, is the winner of the Hungarian Grand Prix, ahead of his teammate Lenny Pepinter, who was leading pretty much this whole race and had more pace than everyone throughout the whole race. So he did a very good job, and he'll come on P2. And the Max Wiesel, who started in 5th, moved himself up to P3. So a very good job for him to take his second podium of the season. Then we have Joseph Loke in P4, Daniel Kjartan in P5, Joe Snorite P6, Toga Hardy P7, Bradley Holden P8, Theo McKee 9th, and then Louis Welch Ranger at the top 10, who did get that point. So very nice there indeed for Mr. Louis Welch. And then we have Racing Taz in 11th, Drake Dempsey 12th, Legend Rosenberg 13th, Simon Komsky, our pole sitter, down in 14th, followed by Liam Stevens, who took the DNF, so along with Joe Van Bossel, Jan Halliday, Yannick Schmidt, and Sergio Sobrino.
How about that then? It's a race clutch 1-2 with Tamas Gal taking victory in his home Grand Prix. Max Wiesel will round out the podium there. I think going to feel a little bit hard done by what's happened, because he is now at this point fighting with Tamas Gal in the title, and he's not got his TF10 teammates to do that. I mean, Japan, Louis Welch kind of did play the team game there, but they're actually not TF10 teammates anymore. I think Louis is now a part of SRT. So I think controversial way to end this race, allowing for Tamas Gal to take victory when I'd say over the course of the race, Lenny Pepinter certainly did deserve to take the win, and then Max Wiesel ends up in third. I wonder if in the call they're doing some sort of like pretend podium where Tamas is gonna let Lenny step on the top step with him, but maybe Connor's gonna send an invoice or something as a little fine for what's happened there. But we'll move on from it. All in all, for the Hungarian Grand Prix, Nathan, it's a track that we don't typically see the best racing. It was really fun to watch.
It was, and I've just done a little bit of working out on my phone, and it seems going into next race, it will be I haven't calculated everyone's points, but it seems like it'll be Max on 26, Tamash on 24, and Yost on 22. So 4 points separating 3 drivers, and there's also other drivers as well who got points who we can count into this. So, yeah, again, the championship getting even more closer as we get our way through in towards. Well, obviously, we won't be here next week, will we? Because we've got the 1 week break. But as the season gets on, it's getting closer and closer.
Yeah, absolutely, and what a way to end it. I mean, I'd say controversial fashion. We've definitely had more controversial races here in PSGL. As apologies, everyone. I've just knocked our screens, our Discord screen off. But I think preemptively, I'll bring us over to the interview room now, and we'll see. Is anyone awaiting an interview? Not yet, but we'll just talk whilst we're in here. I'm going to have a little look in the F2 chat and see what anyone is actually saying here. Rishan Jacob says, "What in the multi 21 have I seen?" I mean, it's more Austria 2002. I think Otaku Logan also pointed that one out there, where, what was it? It was like the 3rd round of the season, so 3rd round as well. Here in, maybe it's a little bit later on in the title fight, but essentially Ferrari, what they did, if you're unfamiliar, asked for Ruben Barrichello to allow for Michael Schumacher to win the race for the championship, even though it was so early on in the season that those kind of team games are not justified whatsoever. And I think the same thing exactly has happened here.
It has, and well, we got our race winner in the chat with us.
Hello.
Oh, wow.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello, Thomas.
Hello.
All right, so a lot to pick out from this race, but we'll talk about your qualifying. How do you feel from your point of view that went for
I
you?
mean, I didn't practice a lot for this, but my pace was really, really good because I really love Hungary, basically. It's a really technical track, really hard track to nail, with the chicanes, with the exits. Just to nail everything is really hard, and I like these kind of tracks. And quali, I was on for a lap which could have been pole by more than a tenth, but I lost a lot in last sector because I went wide in second last corner, and also last corner was not optimal. So yeah, I mean P2 was okay for the race because I know that if you switch with the other people, you can still be in the fight for the win. Then Simon spun on lap 7, I think. Lap 7 or lap 8, I don't know. Yeah, lap 7, I think. Then me and Lenny obviously are teammates, and we just wanted to work together. And I knew that Lenny has practiced the whole week race, basically. And I knew that his race pace will be just rapid. And at the start of the stint, he just overtook me. Then we just worked together, and obviously he gifted me the win, which I really appreciate him to do that. But I will gift him back in Las Vegas if we want to again, because this is like also WR Silverstone. We were working the whole race together, and then on the last lap I could overtake him normally, but this race he gifted me the win basically, and he was like rapid in the race. Like basically I have not sweated this much in 5 months than this race. So yeah, I mean I'm really happy for him because he was really fast, but I'm also happy because in the end, in my mind, I finished P2 and I was slower, but on track I finished P1.
Yeah, and
So yeah.
well, you're going to get those 16 points, I think, regardless. There's nothing in the rules that say that the team
It
play
doesn't
in the
teammates.
race can't do that. So you're definitely going to get all 16 points in this one. And now that you are the winner of the Hungarian Grand Prix, of course,
Yes.
your home race, how does that feel from your point of view?
It does feel great because, you were commentating Qatar, also Nathan, and you saw that I had an absolute stinker in that race. So, yeah, I mean, I didn't practice a lot for that either because I had E-Series, which I did really well at, where I got pole. So I just basically focused on E-Series back then, and then for Qatar, I didn't really have much time for practice. But I still had decent pace, but I just wasn't in the rhythm like I usually am. Like if I'm in the rhythm, I can just keep it up from practice to quali to race, and it's really important for me if I can keep up that rhythm. Because if I like have, how do you say, like a pause between that in that rhythm, then I'm just like either way inconsistent or just slow. So I usually need that consistency and rhythm. And I had that today with Lenny together, and we won 1-2. So yeah.
I mean, what does that do for morale at Race Clutch? You know, as the team working together like that, and then being able to finish 1-2. Surely that is going to make the synergy so much better, and just the relationship between yourself and Lenny and the rest of the team feel that much better.
Yeah, I mean, Race Clutch and Ignition, like the community team of Race Clutch, is really, really good. Like, as you can see, F3 win, F4 win, F4 pole, like, in every single tier where there is Race Clutch, we are winning, and we are on pole. So, this is important for me for the future, because I know, like, for team events, for example, we can just use basically everyone, because we know everyone has the pace. And these kind of wins just push the team to the next level, and I know that in E-Series also we can win if we play it right.
Yeah, well, I mean, that is all from me. Really well done this evening. Yourself and Lenny worked an absolutely masterful race. Nathan, anything from you?
I've got no questions as pretty much everything was asked and answered. But yeah, again, great job on the win. Great job as well to Lenny, and also Thomas Lead. That puts you 2 points behind the leaders in the championship. So now the championship fight is pretty much on.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really happy after the Qatar race, because yeah, Qatar race was not optimal, but now even home race P2, and yeah, I'm really happy. The next race is Las Vegas, which I'm not looking forward to it, because I don't really like the track, but podium will be surely on still. So
Let's
yeah.
hope. So yeah, thank you for joining us, and we hope to see you again next time in Las Vegas.
Thank you, man. Have a good rest.
have a good one.
Have a good rest week.
You too. Bye.
Bye bye.
Thank you very much then to Tamas Gal taking victory here in his home Grand Prix. I mean, certainly it was unexpected heading onto that final lap. I think Lenny Pepper, I said it myself, had it in the bag coming into the final. I think possibly on the lap 34, I'm pretty sure I said it, that Lenny Pepinter couldn't be caught, and that he was taking that win. And then all of a sudden he's pulling off to the side. Tamas Gel's taking victory. It's certainly it's a way to end the race, and definitely, Nathan, people not going to be happy with that. Normally as well, we hear from Max Wiesel in the interview room, but he's not joined us this evening, so I think maybe he might be feeling a little bit hard done by what's happened here tonight. I can see why, but there's nothing in the rules against it. You're allowed to work together as a team, but it's just, it's a win for Tamas Gal, and he definitely is deserving of taking victory. But on this race, on this occasion, Lenny Pepper was just a better driver. He was the quickest all evening.
Yeah, definitely. But I think to people who might be unhappy about it, well, first of all, you need to make sure you're up there to be able to fight for it, and also have a teammate there as well. You know, I'm sure a lot of people would do the same thing. And when it comes to a team's perspective, you know, if Lenny's a reserve, he's not really going to be racing at all the races. He's not guaranteed to be fighting in the championship. Why not let Tamas take it? Why not let him try and close that gap to Max Wiesel and fight with, you know, what we would say, the oldest driver in the F1 scene?
One of them, definitely. Yeah, I mean, I do agree with you. I think I don't really see anything wrong with it. I mean, I think it would have been better, and it would have felt a lot more deserved if he was able to overtake Lenny, and they were both fighting full on. And it does feel a little bit cheap, but I gotta say, Tamas, well, it's the only thing that I could think of at this point. But definitely Tamas Gal is deserving of a victory. If I'm not mistaken, he didn't actually win last season, so it's good to see. I mean, I probably am completely wrong there. I don't remember Tamas Gal taking victory in season 34, so it's good to see him on the board in season 35. And I think definitely from the pace that we've seen so far this season, he's got potential to win multiple races. So even though it was in a little bit of controversial fashion, you can't discredit him. Tamas Gal is a fantastic driver. Max Wiesel's a fantastic driver. Lenny Pepin's a fantastic driver. All three drivers this evening, they deserve that podium.
Yes, definitely. And, well, there's nothing left from me. We had quite a long ending to the stream, a long interview and then a long sign-off. So that's all from me anyway, Dan, for this third round. And just a reminder quickly, with that, we're not here next week. We've got the week's break, so we can have a rest for our voices for one extra week.
Well, that's nice to know. But, yeah, that's all from me as well. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in this evening. Nathan, that was my last race as a teenager. I'm turning 20 soon. Not looking forward to it, but certainly what a way to go out in my teen years. Now it's been over 3 years since I've been a part of PSGL commentating here, so I'm so happy to be starting my 20s here in PSGL. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in this evening. Well, season 35. What a way to kick it off. 3 races down, 3 different winners. We'll see what happens in 2 weeks' time in Las Vegas. Thank you, everyone, once again so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. Thank you and good night.
Desperately trying to hang on. He's got the inside, but up here he's through on the left-hand side. Hooks the apex, gets on the power nicely, and that is job done. Jarno Opmeer now to the last couple of corners now. His finest drive, his greatest drive, and he's done it at the Circuit of the Americas. He returns to the top step of the podium. Once again, the GOAT is back. Jarno Opmeer wins the US Grand Prix in a stunning Grand Prix.
Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my phone, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, got